Hello! It is time for Art in the AM, actually an hour late of what I usually do for Art in the AM. Today was a morning of just navigating some car repairs, and we just have one vehicle, so managing all that it took a little bit more time than I thought that it would. So if you were on my text list, you received a text this morning notifying you that it was going to be a little bit late. If you're not, you can just put in the comments here text, and I'll make sure you have that link. It's an easy way. I normally just send out a text for when I'm going live on Mondays, so it's just like one text a week. And everybody has told me it's been really helpful to be able to, I include the link in there so it takes you to my page, not necessarily right to the video, but to the page. And if you scroll down a little bit, you should be able to find the live video. So today for the ABCs of art, during this Art in the AM time, I have the letter G for you. And I originally had a different word. I think I had the word graphic, and I decided not to do that one because on Saturday, I was working in this little tiny journal that I have here, which is a 4x6-inch journal. And it is Master's Touch, so I believe that is from Hobby Lobby. And it's a drawing pad mainly for more like dry media. So I don't do a lot of collage or like watercolor or anything like that in here. But I was working on a little doodle, and I was using some little stencils that I have. And what I was working with were Prismacolor colored pencils. And when I was using those, one of my favorite ways to use Prismacolors is to do gradients and to do a blending from like one color into the next, or a lighter to a darker, which is usually what I think of for gradients, really, is a light to dark. And Prismacolors are by far my most favorite color pencil to be able to do that. I keep them in a separate container because I have other colored pencils. I think I even have like the Crayola colored pencils, and I have some, I don't even know, like the other, just the inexpensive colored pencils. I have this cutest little set of colored pencils, makes it easy to like travel with and stuff. But what I love about the Prismacolors are that the lead is soft. And that really is what helps to be able to do the gradients. You could use these type of color pencils or a harder lead color pencil, but you're not going to get the gradients. You're not going to get the light to dark. You're not going to be able to control the pressure very easily to be able to do that. And when I was working in this little doodle, that's what I did a lot of, were the gradients from light to dark, dark in the center here going out. And then I also kind of did these gradients where it was a light to dark and into another color. So I did like the light yellow and then kind of blended it and did into a dark orange. The reason that I had a lot of compliments on that one because of the gradients, because of the blending from the dark to the light. And that really, it's learning how to control the Prismacolor is how I do that. But I think what people are drawn to with those gradients like that is it resembles something that is realistic and three-dimensional and has shape, form to it. And it made me start thinking about the contrast between when you don't have that versus when you have some of those gradients. I mean, I wasn't trying to do anything, realistic in here, but the gradients kind of remind us of, things that might be like that. So I found this as I was going through just like cleaning off my space, my table and everything here. And this was watercolor that I did. And I was intentionally trying to make a flat color with no gradients. So I just kind of want to show you the difference. And then I'm going to show you something realistic. It's actually from an artist that you may be familiar with. and show you how it's female artist, uses gradients in her work that she does. So this one is watercolor, and watercolor by its nature kind of has some gradients because of the water in there. So I'm getting a little bit of it in there, even though I was trying to do a flat color. But I just want you to, like this one, there's a little bit around the edges, this one is all pretty, pretty much the same. So I was really trying to just do flat colors and control so that, there were no gradients, darker edges, anything like that. So that was, you can do that really easily. You have to do it with a piece of watercolor paper. So I think it might have been from one of those little journals, but it was a watercolor journal. And, you just kind of start painting these rectangles of the different colors of your watercolor and trying to, it's really a good exercise for watercolor to try to control. So it's all just one value. And when I did this one, and I'm going to show you some with the color pencils and the blending and doing the gradients, but when I was doing this one, I, was pressing down lightly with the pencil, and I was pressing down harder, and then, kind of in the corners where I really wanted it, you can really press down hard. I don't want to say too hard with the Prismacolors because they are soft and the lead does break easily. So it's kind of a build up and pressure, but not like you're just like pressing down on the pencil. So there is an artist named Georgia O'Keeffe. You can let me know if you're familiar with her. You're probably familiar with her artwork, even if you didn't know the name of the artist. She uses gradients with her paint, and I would say that I want to say that she used oil paints, which you can get a lot of, just different transparency and things with the oil paints to create gradients. But she painted these large flowers. So tell me if you have seen her, like very large. They're like focused in. They fill up the whole area with, the flower. So this is the front cover. It's a little calendar of her artwork. But I was going to show you a couple of the ones in here that use the gradients. And this is actually the one from the front cover. So she uses the gradients even with white and putting the, the grays and things in there. Hi, Marion. Yours is the first comment that I've seen. The flower lady. Yeah. The really large flowers. And in the background, even with the blue, kind of going from the light to the dark. So she was able to make these realistic looking flowers by using those different gradients, by going from light to dark. And even in the center area here, usually parts that are dark look like they're farther away, whereas areas that are a lighter value, that are lighter in the gradient, they look like they're closer. So having this be lighter around here and this get really dark down in here and this gradient, then it shows that from light to dark. Wanda, is it the connection, like it keeps kind of spinning or something like that? I've seen that pop up here once or twice. So like just right now, it popped up slow connection on my side. So I think during that time, it will like pixelate a little bit. I have noticed sometimes on the replay, it doesn't do that as much. It somehow fixes itself on the replay. So let me show you another one of Georgia O'Keeffe, especially in the greens, how she did the darker. So that looks like it's underneath, where this, and especially like that little tiny light area, looks like it's closer, like it's that little tiny edge that is curling around on the leaf. So using gradients, whether it's Prismacolor, which I'm going to show you, or acrylic paint, or I have my mixed media gel sticks over here, or it's chalks or charcoal or whatever it is, having like learning how to control those materials to go from light to dark and apply different pressure is what will make your artwork look more three-dimensional. So Finesse blending pens, I have not, Marion. Now I have something to look into. I'm gonna have to look into those. Here's another one just kind of showing like a lot of her gradients like in the background and really going like from light to dark, and you know, creating like a lot of it. The gradients just create a lot of depth. This is probably one of my favorite ones of hers, these calla lilies, is that what they're called? So, I mean, you can definitely see the folds, you know, of the petals, and where they really, you know, that area where it really like goes down in is a much darker value. Even in the pink back here, which I don't know if that's other flowers back there, or it almost looks like fabric or something back there, but this really shows a lot of that gradients. So I have all of my Prismacolors. I have all of the set here, and I have a couple of different ones of blues because they're like one of my favorites, and I have some neutrals. And I have noticed in the Prismacolors, I mean, they're all very soft, but the red in particular seems to be really soft, and the white. And I'll show you how to do some blending and gradients with the white too. So let me go ahead and turn this down here. I'm working in my watercolor journal. So this is the back of the one that I did last week. And I'm going to basically show you kind of how I did this doodle there. So I am using my ultrafine Sharpie, and I'm just going to use the straight edges of this, and I just kind of did some lines. And let's see, I think that I want to go this way with the lines. So it'll be a little bit different size than the one that I did the other day. But I'll show you some of just the different ways that you can do the gradients. Let's do, I'm trying to place them like in different spots. And I am doing 4 of these lines. And then I'm also going to do kind of like a rectangular, well, I'm just using the square of the shape. You know, I had somebody, I think it was on YouTube, it wasn't here on my business page. I had somebody tell me that it was not considered a doodle if I use a stencil. So what do you think about that? Oh, hey there, Wanda. What do you think? If you use a stencil, a template like this, a ruler, is it not considered a doodle? I had never had anybody say that. And actually, I looked up the definition of a doodle, and it doesn't say anything about that you can't use a stencil. So I'm going to do a couple of these circles. I'll do both different sizes here. And I'm kind of using like some of the lines that are already there to just, you know, kind of like anchor. Some of them I'm crossing over. And then I'm going to I think I want to do just like a curve. And so that will be, it's going to turn actually this way. I feel like I need something right over in here because I have this kind of floating. Basically, you want to create shapes on there that you can use to be able to to fill in with the values and the gradients. And you don't want something too small. Now I feel like there's 3 circles. There's this one little curve. I feel like I need one other little curve over in here somewhere. And I'm going to connect it to the end of that. So the way that I started the other day is I just started with one of the colors, and I kind of started filling in just a really light value, just a value like not pressing down very hard with the pencil. So I will just pick one of the shapes here, and what I'm trying to do is these little tiny strokes all going in one direction. And what I did notice, since this is watercolor paper, it's going to grip a hold of the texture of the paper a little bit. So you're not going to get a really smooth gradient. But I'm going to show you something that you can do with the white color pencil to help that a little bit. So I just kind of did all one value. It's a little bit darker up in here, and if I kind of see that, I'll try to go over like really lightly. Some people will do little circles. I tend to do like the lines just going all one direction. So I'm just going to do this one little shape, and then I'll kind of like finish the whole page off camera probably. What I did on some of the shapes on this one is I did go from light to dark with just the one color. And then some of them I went back in with a different color. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of start in the middle of where I want like a medium value. And I start just pressing down a little bit harder. And as I get farther to this corner where I'm going to have it the darkest, I just start applying more pressure. And, you know, when somebody says, you know, oh my gosh, you did so great with those gradients. To me, it really is just confirmation that I practiced, because it is a skill, but it's not necessarily a talent for you to just get better at these gradients. So I've kind of like built it up. It's pretty light. It's getting a little bit darker. And I always kind of think about it like I can always come back in and make it a little bit darker. It's kind of difficult to make it lighter, right? Like I would have to erase it. And the Prismacolor does erase, but not really very well. So now what I'm doing is I'm starting to press a little bit harder as I get into this corner. And sometimes I will turn my pencil lead so it's a little more on the pointy kind of side, so I have a little bit more control. And in that farthest corner there, that's when I press down and apply like the most pressure. And then I'll kind of blend that out even, you know, a little bit more. So if you decided that you wanted another color in here, you would just want to do a color that is close to blue on the color wheel. So you could do a green or you could do a purple. And I actually have this blue violet, which is, you know, right next to the blue. And that's what I'm going to use. They actually call it violet blue. So maybe it's a little bit more on the violet side than the blue. So when I add another color, I really start really lightly. I'm going to do it kind of, you know, in the middle and then go into the darker. And I'll probably add a little bit up in here, but I start really lightly because I already have one of the colors on there. I feel like the screen is a little bit dark, so I will, because it's in the view of the light and it's getting a little bit darker outside, when I get this finished, I will show you up close. So now I'm kind of starting to press down. The only thing with the Prismacolors that I've noticed, sometimes they can start to build up like a little bit of a waxy feel if you start pressing down too hard, too early. And I'm trying to kind of go in and fill in some of that watercolor, the little texture that's on the pages there. So in this corner, I am applying more pressure, but I'm also getting into all those little texture, like the crevices of the paper, because it's not a smooth paper. Like I want to have it a little bit more. So I've already pressed down pretty hard with the blue in the corner. So it's really not taking a lot of this blue violet. So I really do have to put a lot more pressure in the corner there. And you can see, because it goes from the light to dark, it starts to look like this is away from you. Like this is farther away, right? Doesn't it kind of look like it's sloping down in, or it's curved right there? So you can use gradients to, make ribbons look like they're flowing because of where you put the darker values, the lighter values, and make that gradient. It will look like something is coming towards you or going away from you. So the last thing that I want to show you is how, especially for something like this one, since it's a watercolor paper, I'm going to use the white, which I did not do on this one at all, but I'm going to use the white to blend it even more. And I'm not going to worry, I'll just show you like after I get it like all blended. It is going to lighten the colors a little bit, but it's going to help me to blend it all out. So really, you can get the look of paint with Prismacolors. And by going over with this white, sometimes people will call this like burnishing, because I'm burnishing really with the white over top of, the colors that are already on there. And it really starts to look more like paint. So let me go ahead and we'll see how light it gets. But this is really filling in all of the texture of the paper. And since I've already kind of filled it in the bottom, I'm really not going to put white all the way to the corner there. I have seen some beautiful colored pencil. I mean, I have to get right up on them to be able to really tell that they're not paint. And a lot of it comes from just this building up of the values. So look at the difference between how that really blends with the white on there, just burnishing that over. So I think on this one, I'm going to do all just gradients. What I ended up doing with this one, after I got all of the gradients done, and you can kind of see like in some of the areas where it didn't create a shape, I still kind of did, and I just, the dark in the corner, and I just blended it out. But what I did with this one is I came back in with some Pitt Artist pens and really fine detailed ones, and I just did a lot of curved lines, so it kind of looked like sound waves. That's what it kind of reminds me of with those. So I did a lot of those, and then in a couple of the blue ones, you can't see the gradient as much, but I did like circles in there, or they almost look like scales inside there. And a few of them, like this one that I went from the yellow to the orange, I just left that one. I left, all the yellow and orange ones in there. And I didn't do anything in this purple one down here, I'm noticing. And some of them are just like the really fine little lines. So that's what I did on this one, because this was part of my journal that I'm doing for the doodles. And if you want the whole list of the doodles, if you are not in Art Journaling 101 on Facebook, you can get the entire list of August. There are 31 prompts to do doodles, and I actually put them and I wrote them all out in the front of my journal, so I'm checking them off as I do those. So I've finished about I've done 7 or 8. I think I did 8 and I haven't checked that one off yet. And we're at August 17th. So I haven't done all 31, but if you want the list of all 31, and you can still go over into Art Journaling 101, get that list, and you can post your pictures in there and share the doodles that you do during August. So I'm going to finish working on the gradients and filling in with some of the different colors. I may even go with a more of a color scheme on this one rather than using like all of my colors. So I'll decide, but I really like the white over top and how it really burnished and blended that together. So experiment with the color pencils or even the other materials that you have and see about getting those gradients and getting that blending and using that when you want something to look more three-dimensional. My stand started like slide down. So that is the letter G for the ABCs of art. So next week I will do the letter H in my journal here, but look for a photo of this probably later on today. And if you are not on my email list, I always send out an email of the replay of this video, and you can always watch it on my YouTube later on after I get it put up on there too for the replay. So thank you for watching, and I will see you back next week. Should be at 10:30 a.m. Eastern for the next letter in the ABCs of Art.